One of the stars of CPAC, Turning Point USA, one of the great organizations out there. Charlie, so great to have you on the broadcast.
Great to be here, Alex. Thank you.
It is a pleasure to speak to you. And we were just talking about a topic that you and I know very well, which is the left's smear mentality.
Oh, sure.
There's no more arguments. You're the most influential conservative on Twitter. And the reason why, I think, is because you provide arguments.
Thank you.
You make arguments. These are things you have to contend with if you're on the left. The left does what we saw yesterday with Michael Cohen, which is you smear the president. Mm-hmm. And should someone like Mark Meadows dare to bring a black Trump administration official to testify on behalf of the president not being a racist, that is a racist act in and of itself. So we can't win.
Can't win. And I like to say this has not been anything new. Andrew Breitbart exposed this in the new digital era, right around 2008, 2009, where the left just used the same mob mentality that they used in the 60s and 70s, in the 30s and 40s, and they brought it digitally and they brought it online. Yeah. And what we've tried to do, and the kind of the lesson I learned from Andrew, is these public forums, allegedly public forums.
Allegedly.
I have to qualify that. Yeah. Google or Twitter or Facebook. If used properly, you can put forth arguments, put them on defense.
Yes.
And we have an incredible amount of intellectual ammunition on our side. Breitbart is providing it every single day that makes compelling arguments.
Thank you.
And the American people are looking for that sort of content.
Right.
And they're looking to be able to engage with it regularly and daily. And so I appreciate the compliment very much so. And the president does this very well.
Yes, very well.
And he stays so disciplined and on message. I think the biggest issue in America is immigration. And without this president, we would not even be talking about it.
That's a good point. It's a great point.
He stayed so disciplined on it. He did not waver, and he really stayed in a way that said, here's the issue, and here's a solution to it. So going back to kind of the philosophical roots of why the left is a mob, they don't think as individuals. They inherently think as a collective. And this is not frontier philosophy on my part. Ann Coulter wrote about this in her book Demonic, where the left will lose they will sacrifice their individuality on behalf of what's good for the collective.
That is correct. And that's how they can mobilize behind such horrible ideas, because you see that Green New Deal, they're all behind it.
Of course, because conservatives hate it.
Because conservatives hate it. Fourth trimester abortion, which is baby killing.
Yes.
We're behind it. All of a sudden, the collective moves. They move as a blob, and we move as rugged individualists. So sometimes it's hard to coalesce.
Sure.
But there's more integrity in that.
There's way more integrity. The positives of Donald Trump is maybe sometimes a little bit of cohesion's not bad.
Sure.
And that's the argument for conservative populism, is that, okay, if we're 53 million individuals, it's really hard to get something done and have excitement and a cohesive message or brand. And quite honestly, that lends power to the elites when you don't have that sort of grassroots accountability via populism, which I think Trump has done super well.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the rallies and why he stays in touch with, the everyday folks, where, the Republican Party the last 30 years, minus Reagan really was the last one that did this, was a party that catered to a cluster of a couple thousand elites centralized in the West Coast and the East Coast.
Yeah.
And now the Republican Party owns the American middle class.
Yeah, it does. And the working class.
That's right.
And this is and the Democrats are the party of the super elite and the folks that sort of the lower.
And the permanently poor.
Yeah, the permanently poor, who I think if they were armed with the arguments that you're trying your best to arm them with, and we're trying our best, I think there'd be a lot of conversion too. But
without
the institutions are so overwhelmingly left, and which is why you focused, as we focus in media at Breitbart, you're focusing on the campuses.
That's right.
Talk to us about why this president, other than perhaps Ronald Reagan, but I feel like the guys who've really resonated with young people over the last few decades on the right, Reagan, Ron Paul, which kind of surprises some people, but it's true, and the president, that's it for the politicians reaching young people
on the conservative
side.
Right. Yeah.
So why is he so good to your crowd, Charlie?
Authenticity.
Yeah.
And the inability to be bought by special interests, and saying what he believes without any sort of degree of compromising. Far too often our generation is rightfully so just disgusted with the amount of pandering the ruling class does to the wealthy elite. And there seems to be this inside-out relationship between big business and big government.
That's right.
And the left, they get half of that argument somewhat right, where they critique how big business is able to benefit.
Sure.
But then their solution is to grow government bigger.
Yes. Right.
Some of the Republican Party, more the moderate wing, they get some of the argument right when they critique big government and bureaucracies, but they want to do nothing to go after maybe big tech.
Yes, I love this point, and this is one that is so important. And I don't mean to change gears too abruptly, Charlie, but it's so crucial here. And this is one where the big tech cronyism has finally gone mainstream this year at CPAC, and this is one that we've been hammering.
And that shows the influence of Breitbart.
Thank you.
Because now it's into the ether and of what some would say is the CPAC mainstream. And I think CPAC some ways is a leading indicator, most ways is a lagging indicator, actually.
Yeah.
This has been brewing in the conservative movement for years.
Okay, and we're going to talk to James O'Keefe later in the show about his latest expose on Facebook shadow banning. We know about the Twitter shadow banning. You've kind of skirted around this, so you're a great authority on this, because you personally, I think, have been able to navigate the treacherous waters of big tech. But this is for your business model, for my business model. This is a massive problem.
Huge.
That there are these platforms controlled almost 100% by left-wing globalists who are looking to come up with excuses to shut us down.
It's almost an oligarchy, is what it's become.
It's exactly an oligarchy.
And they have no transparency. There's no accountability structure, and I believe markets improve people's lives. I remain consistent.
Absolutely.
In that, in the premise of trade and so on and so forth. But with that being said, I look at big tech. They benefit a lot from government deals, many of them, including Google and Amazon, whether it be cloud server deals or government contracts. And what's going to prevent Google from completely altering our society if they want to, whether through behavioral technologies, search engine manipulation, data mining. It's rather horrifying stuff. And Tucker Carlson and I had this kind of fun debate, and I agree with him that Google's a threat. He thinks Google is an even bigger threat than government.
Yeah.
And I kind of walked away with, you might be right, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay to say at times. But even if I say I don't know, that's something to be said, that now there's a non-government entity that might have more power than the IRS.
Certainly, and it's on pace for it not to be a debate. If nothing is done, if we're just going to sit there, throw up our hands as the establishment Republican Party has done, and say that it's a private business, so they can do whatever they want, but it's not really so much. That's not really the case.
No, and so the thought exercise I always go through, and it's so important. It's something I do on Twitter a lot, which is try to break people out of just the monolithic cable news television way of portraying things, which is, if Google was owned by an outward Republican conservative and had mostly conservative engineers, and then they comprise 88% search results, do you think the Democrats would not be calling for an antitrust violation?
Yes, of course they would.
Of course they would be.
Yes,
of course they would be. There would be a nationwide movement to do that. Any other industry has that sort of dominance over a particular sector, especially the consumption of information. Like, it's bad enough that, let's say ExxonMobil had 88% of all oil purchases. They'd be shut down in a second by the Federal Trade Commission. But the consumption of information, that's how people find identity and consciousness and how they speak. And so there is something to be said that this relationship between big business and big government, neither side really get that correct, Alex. But Trump is starting to say both are benefiting from this deal. Big government is funded by big business.
Right.
The bureaucrats are protected by the media industry. The politicians are funded by Google, Amazon, so on and so forth. And then big business gets the protection of the bureaucracies. They get the sweetheart government contracts, and they benefit from their own size and their albatross to use regulation as a deterrent against any sort of competition. Yeah,
and then they stroke the big checks, and it becomes this big vicious circle. So, Charlie, let's talk about what's going on at UC Berkeley, my alma mater.
Oh, you really went?
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was UCLA for some.
No. UC Berkeley. I went there to stir up some trouble. Not hard to do.
Did you ever get punched in the face?
I did not get punched in the face. I was called a racist numerous times over nothing by people who don't know me, but I did not get punched in the face. But apparently punching a college Republican is now in vogue. There's plenty of footage to back it up. What's going on over there? You went and paid a visit out there?
Yeah, I visited there 2 days ago, and Breitbart covered this wonderfully, so thank you, where one of our Turning Point USA activists, in conjunction with the Leadership Institute, which does great work, was tabling and recruiting, and then some very angry leftists, they tend to be that way mostly nowadays, came up and was screaming and yelling.
Pattern.
Yeah. And punched him in the face. And the clip has gone totally viral.
Yes.
And the lack of reaction from the police was alarming, and we kept the pressure on, and so did you guys. And that's what people have to realize listening in this audience, is that the left will not move an inch unless we make them.
Yes.
And our institutions are failing.
Yeah.
And Rush Limbaugh talks about this beautifully right now, which we used to be able to count on these impartial institutions.
Yeah.
The Justice Department, failing. The FBI, failing. These referees of our culture, they're no longer doing that. And so that's where the external forces of Breitbart and my Twitter feed keep them accountable. So anyway, going back to what I was saying, we finally got the police to wrap up their report, and then now they're going to a judge asking for a warrant for this guy's arrest, which is if that actually happens, massive accomplishment.
But
because at Berkeley, that doesn't always happen.
It doesn't always happen, and it's
They just let these guys
shame,
go.
though. It's just so sad that it's necessary. It takes people. It takes people getting involved to.
Oh, it's. And again,
it should be automatic. Facebook shouldn't be banning people based on their viewpoint. It shouldn't take Don Jr. to stop them from doing that.
No.
Berkeley should be prosecuting people who are punching conservatives in the face. It shouldn't take Charlie Kirk stepping in for this.
Or me have to visit and then
you shouldn't have to raise awareness about people getting punched in the face. They should not require raising awareness.
No, it shouldn't. But this is the thing. There was a UC Berkeley employee that came out and said, "Oh, I'm really glad this happened." Essentially, and you guys wrote it up.
Yes.
They're okay with this, Alex.
Yeah, of course.
Because they look at us.
Saying it.
Of course, no. I mean, punch a conservative is the whole thing. And they say something else. I don't even want to say what they say. Let's just say, they say, "Oh, we have to punch people we disagree with." Like,
yeah.
Are you kidding me? Here's the point that I would make. Again, it's a fun thought exercise. If the attacker was wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat and punched a liberal, it would have been the #1 news story that we could have looked at in the last week.
That's right. It would have been Jussie Smollett. It would have been around the clock.
And there would have been SWAT teams everywhere looking for this guy.
Everywhere. The guy would have been so internationally famous. Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA. Anything to plug quickly before we run?
About to speak at CPAC, kind of what I see coming forward in the conservative movement, and I'm going to be talking about a lot of this. That we cannot be so we cannot draw too much to our past talking points to say that we can't somehow go after big tech.
Yes, that's right. I'm glad you're on this topic, Charlie. Keep up the good work, my friend. We'll be streaming it live at Breitbart.com.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.